Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning into this second video. So this is just some really basic stuff for any worship leaders that lead from an acoustic guitar. We just did another video which was talking about an open C position and some great tips of how we can lock in a home position that makes chord changes through our 1, 3, 5 and 6 chords really simple, so that this thing doesn't ever become a barrier in our playing and we're kind of all the time looking down wondering what we should be doing. So this next video, I was asked the question, when we come into those times in music and worship where we kind of have to fill the space musically, what kind of things can we do that go above and beyond just playing the cycle of our chord progression? Somebody said, is it ever appropriate that we kind of do some sort of solo from the acoustic guitar? The answer to that is no, that is never ever appropriate. But anyway, moving on, we've all been in these moments where, if you want to picture the scene with me, so we're leading worship and we know that that time is coming where there may be something more that we need to do musically. Rather than rushing into the next song, maybe it's during one of the songs and we kind of don't want to just play the 4 chords. We want to just do something slightly different, maybe melodic, using the guitar that's going to help us. Now, in an ideal world, we'll turn around and look at our keyboard player because they have an array of sounds and different way of playing things that we kind of don't have on here that would fill that space really well. But if you picture the scene, we turn around, the keyboard player's on Instagram or on Facebook during worship, so we can't get his attention. And then that moment comes where you look to the front row, the pastor's there, and he kind of gives you that keep going message. Now, we have one of 2 options when we see that. The first option we have all been guilty of. It's the over super spiritual option, where we actually quickly close our eyes, put our hands out like this, and just see, as soon as he starts to look at you, just pretend you're lost in awe and wonder, which then gets you out of doing whatever he's requesting of you. However, using some of these tips and techniques, we can say no to option 1, or we can grab option 2 by the horns and we can give it full rudder, and we can use this thing in times of worship, so when we get that call to carry on, we know exactly what to do. Does that make sense? So hopefully, now these tips are really super simple, so sorry for all of the pros out there, but let's look at just 2 little ideas that we can use to fill the space and do something above and beyond the 4 chords. So if you're playing in your church, in the school hall, the village hall, wherever you are, 9 times out of 10, you might be playing either in the key of G, so we might be using the G, E minor, D and C chords. We may be in a different key, but using those same structures with a capo up and down this fretboard, so the positionings will look the same. So first of all, we could actually just play those chords nicely over, so you could have like a G, and then maybe a D and put the F sharp in the bass, an E minor to C. So all of that sounds great, but there's only so many times we can cycle through that without getting a little bit bored. So we need to take it to the next level. So one cool little idea, when we get to that E minor chord, we can actually change it. Now it sounds a little bit grand, we can impress all of our friends with this, but what I would do is, I would change that chord now and again to what is called an E minor 9th chord, okay? So don't worry too much about that. When we talked about our chords, major and minor, so a major chord, basic major chord is a triad, which is 3 notes, which is a 1, 3 and a 5, and that makes up the major chords. So C, B, C, E and G. Now, if we're looking at an E minor 9 chord, it's really cool because instead of it being a triad and 3 notes, the chord is comprised of 5 notes. And so if we come on to numbers and various things later, all you need to know, to make an E minor 9 chord, or a minor 9 chord, it can be any, you do the 1, the minor 3, 5, minor 7, and then a major 9. So don't worry about those if that doesn't make too much sense, but you could go and do some research on that. So if I were to play an E minor 9 chord open, I have my first finger on this B note here, and then I put my my little finger on this F sharp here, and then the final finger I'm going to put on is my middle finger on the B string on the 3rd fret here. And if we ring that chord out, leaving this E string open, it sounds really, really nice. So let's just do our standard E minor chord. So it sounds quite dark, not a lot to it, but if we add the E minor 9th in, it sounds like this. Wow. That is great. So there's a number of ways we can do that. We can just open it out like that. And then what we can do is just move our finger from the B to the C, and then we can play the C chord using that same position, which gives it a slightly different feel. So, because in kind of those more instrumental times, we could be just to a D. Then we could throw the E minor 9 in to C. Then back to the E minor 9. So tip number 1, use that E minor 9 and then change up to the C. There's 2 little sneaky chords you can throw in to catch everybody out, and you can play around with those 2 for a little while. So, but we need a little bit more than that. So if you're by yourself and you're not communicating with a band, we don't have to stay in this key of G. So what I would do is, I would cycle round something like that. So do G, D with an F sharp in the bass there, E minor 9, to C. And then what we can do is we could, what would be called modulate, so we can move up to the next key. So we can move up to A major. The great thing about that is we can do that like Westlife do. We do a key change, we stand up and everybody feels great. The Holy Spirit descends like a dove. But in this moment, it's just going to actually change the feel. It's going to bring us up slightly. And what I'm going to use is, I love to use the open strings on the guitar because it sounds much better than trying to bar chord all the way up here. So what I'm going to do is, for this open A chord, I'm literally going to use these 2 fingers here. And so this E string is dead to us. We don't want to use it anymore. We're just going to literally play everything from the A string down and leave this open the whole time. So literally I'm just playing an A and a C sharp, just starting from the D strings, and it's just like stepped down like that. So if we play in the key of G minor 9, to C, move up to A, which sounds great. And then what we're going to do is just move this position up 2 frets, keep the A in the bass, but we're going to go to kind of a B chord there. So it sound like this. Back to A. Now keep the A in the bass. Okay. And then to keep going up, because it sounds great the higher we get, we can't just follow that position moving up. So what we do is, for the next chord, so like number 3 in the sequence, we just move this finger up 1, take this finger off, and put this finger on instead. So what we've done is we've moved up, we put 1 finger there, we leave a whole fret out, and then we put that finger on there. And then this is going to be the position that carries us for the next 2. So it's starting like this. So once you've done that, then the cycle just carries on. So if we were to start it from our kind of open A position, try it this coming Sunday.